It's finally here. We've waited damn near a year and a half to watch it. And finally, on Wednesday, April 10th, it will be here. All Stars 4. Cara Maria is back. Laurel is back. Leroy and Kam are back together. Jay, yes, that Jay is back. The Mean Girls trio of Veronica, Rachel, and Tina are back together. For God's sakes, Tony Time is back. So many people are back, which means the challenge may officially itself be back 9 days out from what seems destined to be an iconic season unfolding, and we've got a lot to discuss. The cast, the trailer, but not too shot for shot slow-mo look for spoilers type of trailer breakdown, the star twist, the known romances and rivalries coming up, and everything else we can think of to talk about or have an opinion about. It's the challenge All Stars 4 season preview coming up right now. Coming up today on this program, we've got the cast list first and foremost. We'll go back through it. We covered it once upon a time on our initial cast reactions. We way back when did a full-blown, hopeful casting, fantasy casting of this season. So we've talked a little of the cast before. We'll recap quickly just who's on it, when we last saw them, where they're coming to us from. Then we're going to get into what little bit we know about the format in the star twist that is brought to us in the trailer. And then after that, 10 things I am most excited about. Just 10 random things. We're 10 days out, 9 days out, I guess now. It doesn't really totally work. Anyways, I just picked 10. I don't know why. 10 things I'm most excited about going into this season. And then I will end with a preseason power rankings and my final and winners picks for the season. I did technically make winners picks way back on that cast reaction podcast, but I'm going to allow myself to make the official ones here today. So that's what's coming up now. As always, thanks for being here. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, all of that great stuff. I love you. I appreciate you. All Stars 4 season preview. Let's dive in. First things first, let's just run through the cast. Not a ton of commentary, maybe a sentence or not even about each of these people, but just to remind us who we're about to see on our screens in this cast, where they came from originally, what, the briefest of challenge resumes, mostly just when we saw them last. I'm not going to run through all of the stats for all of these people. And I guess I should have put maybe at the top as far as spoiler warnings. The main thing is I have nothing spoiled about this season as far as how anyone does anything like that. Any spoilers that I would say matter, I have no idea about. And so anything that is discussed here, any especially at the end, the predictions and stuff, it is all me. It is all just what I'm hoping for more than anything, as much as my unbiased attempts at guessing and predicting things. But there are a couple very small, soft spoilers, as I would call them, as far as things that are very well known, either publicized via the show itself or the cast itself or whatever. And so such things like one of the alternates does get into the game. I don't know for who, but we do know because it's just on the official cast list on most publication sites now. So I'm gonna talk about that person, and I don't know who they replace or anything like that, but we're gonna mention that there's a relationship and a rivalry, at least one of each that come out of this cast that are just really well known if you're on social media and follow challenge related things at all at this point. And so those are going to be mentioned, and it doesn't mean I don't know how they happen on the show. I don't know what happens on the show, but I do know after the fact, now in present day, there's at least one relationship that came of this season, and at least one non-relationship that came of this season, should we say. So things like that are on the table, but again, only if they're really well known and talked about, and to the point of indie, the people.com's write up of the cast of the season and stuff like that. If they're that well known, I'm happy to talk about it. But again, I have no idea who wins a daily, who wins an elimination, who wins the whole thing, who goes home when, any of that stuff. We're spoiler free around these parts. So without further ado, now that we've got the spoiler warning out of the way, we will quickly run through the cast. Let's go females first here. You know what? Last time we did this, we went in alphabetical order. Let's go reverse alphabetical order, shall we? Starting with the face of the franchise herself, the OG face of the franchise herself, the Queen Mount Rushmore having of the challenge, Veronica Portillo. Semester at Sea, obviously OG, originally 12 seasons, one All-Star season. Last seen partnered with Laurel on Ride or Dies in 2022. Fantastic. Anytime Veronica's here, we've got to have her, the OG face of the challenge. Tina is here with her, originally South Pacific, 6 seasons of the challenge, 2 All-Star seasons. This will now be her 3rd All-Star season, which is absolutely wonderful. Last seen on All-Stars 3 in 22. Rachel Robinson, and they come as a package deal, this trio, and they're literally in a package deal when we go alphabetical here, even in reverse order. It still works out. Campus Crawl, originally 7 seasons. Last seen in 2012 on Battle of the X's. 12 years in the making. The return of Rachel Robinson. Couldn't be more happy there. Nicole Zanata, last seen on Double Agents in 2020. 3 seasons, originally Real World Skeletons. Comes back and obviously will be a big part of this season, given her on again, off again relationship with the one and only Laurel Stuckey, who is next on this list. Fresh Meat 2, originally 7 seasons, last seen on Ride or Dies with partner Jack. Kam is back. Are You the One 5? 5 seasons, last seen on Double Agents when she did not retire, but her hubby, Leroy, did at the moment retire. They've gone on to have now 2 children. At the time of the Kam and Leroy we will see on this season will have 1 child. They then immediately after this season have a second that is, again, now out in the world. The second child exists. The second child is with us today because that's how long it has been since this season was filmed, that can happen. All of that can happen in that time. But Kam is back, which is unbelievable. Janelle is here, Real World Key West, last seen on All Stars 2, originally 2 seasons of the challenge, and then the 1 All Star season as well. Jasmine, also last seen on All Stars 2, originally Real World Cancun, 6 seasons of Flagship, 1 All Star. The biggest surprise probably in the entire cast, Flora from Real World Miami, way back. She, along with Kifla, who we'll touch on in the men's cast, officially break the record for the longest time between seasons. The last time we saw Flora was 22 years ago on Battle of the Seasons, the original one, not season 23, season 5, 2002. And that was her only season of the challenge. So yeah, to say a surprise casting is a bit of an understatement. And then Cara Maria, of course, is here, Fresh Meat 2, 14 seasons, multiple wins, last seen on War of the Worlds 2 in 2019. It's been 5 years. 5 years. What the hell were we doing for those 5 years? Not anything nearly as entertaining as watching Cara Maria on the challenge, that's for sure. And then Ayana, Semester at Sea, 3 seasons of the challenge, 1 of All Stars, which was the last we saw her on All Stars 2, is back with us. And rounding out the women is Avery, Real World Portland, 2 seasons of the challenge, last seen on Rivals 3 in 2016. So 8 years later. So we've got a lot of legitimate comebacks. Avery, 8 years later. Cara, 5 years later, which just seems wild. Flora, 22 years later. 12 years later for Rachel. And, you know, the trio of the Mean Girls together, it's been, I don't even know. I don't know exactly which was the last season they were all on together, but it's been 15 years, 16 years, 17 years, something of that nature. So a lot of comebacks on the women's side, as is on the men's side, which we will also go in reverse order, which means we've got to talk first. Actually, no, we'll put him in. We'll correctly put him in alphabetical reverse order here. So we start with Tyree, Real World Denver, 6 seasons, last seen on Rivals 2, 11 years ago. Tony is back, one that we all were hoping for. We weren't sure if we'd ever get. Real World Skeletons, of course. 2 Real World Skeletons alum, him and Nicole. 6 seasons, last seen on Final Reckoning 6 years ago in 2018. Steve Mankey is back. The Quest, Road Rules The Quest, it is. 1 season of the show, and then 1 season All-Stars, which was All-Stars 2. Did enough to get the invite back for now. He joins Kendall and I think a few others now, as will have officially done more seasons of All-Stars than he did of the Flagship, which is something to say. Ryan Kehoe is here, Fresh Meat, 5 seasons, 1 All-Star season, last seen on All-Stars 2. Leroy, speaking of, we mentioned him before with Kam, did retire seemingly after Double Agents and is back. Already he's back. He's back for this. He's back for season 40. It's fantastic. I have Leroy back in our lives, obviously from Real World Las Vegas 2, 12 seasons of the show. Maybe the best to have played the game but never won. Leroy is here. Kifla, we referenced him before. 1 season of the show, originally Road Rules Down Under, technically 2 seasons of the challenge. He was a guest, host for a daily challenge on season 3 of the show after taking part in challenge, challenge 2000 was season 3 when he did the cameo, and then challenge Real World versus Road Rules challenge season 2, at that time called season 1, retroactively called season 2, 1999 was when he did his 1 season. So he shatters the record, even, Flora on one side, Keith on the other. 25 years later, absolutely unbelievable. Jay is back. One of the biggest kind of surprise casts for sure, was definitely making waves when it came out. Jay from Real World Explosion did the 1 season. Exes 2 famously quit during the final, even though they were super far in last place because he didn't want to drink the drink, partnered with Jenna. We've got Derek, Cancun Derek. That is 2 seasons of the flagship show. Now will be his 2nd season of All Stars, last seen on All Stars 2. Brandon Nelson is back, Fresh Meat 2, 5 seasons of the challenge, last seen on Free Agents, so a decade later for Brandon Nelson. Absolute fan favorite. Love having Brandon back. Brad is here. Got to have some real OG heavy hitters in the building. So Brad is here. 10 seasons of the show, plus I guess now 11 if you count showing up on B-Fank. 2 All-Star seasons. This will be his 3rd. Last seen on All-Stars 3, getting runner-up to Wes again. He did win the 1, so it's not always the bridesmaid, never the bride situation for Brad, but it damn near has been close. And then Adam Larson, another big gap, comes back, last seen on Viewers Revenge, Road Rules Viewers Revenge, the ill-fated, in 2007. Prior to that, he had been on 3 seasons of the challenge after Road Rules The Quest. Adam comes back, 17 years later, absolutely unbelievable. 18 years later, I think, since the challenge. And then the final cast member is Ace, Real World Paris, 4 seasons of the show, 1 All-Star season, last seen on All-Stars 1, getting beaten into the ground by Letarian in a pole wrestle. And then the one person who I said I was going to smartly slot in to alphabetical reverse order here, the alternate that will be in the game and is officially on all official cast listings. So sorry if this is too much of a spoiler for you, but again, I don't know who he replaces, how, why, what reason, but I do know that Cyrus, and again, he's in the trailer, for crying out, okay? So it's like not I don't even feel like I should use the word spoiler. They put him in the trailer, okay? He was originally an alternate. He ends up in the season somehow, some way. Cyrus is back. Real World Boston, 5 seasons, 2 All-Star seasons. He joins, Brad here as a 3rd All-Star season out of 4, and deserved every single time. Last seen on All-Stars 3 in 2022. So that is your cast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 24 total, 25 total with Cyrus joining as an alternate. So that is your cast. Let's then go from there and talk a little format, star twist, and everything else that comes with this season. With the format of this show, there's only 2 things we really can talk about going into it and discuss it all. And it basically boils down to, we don't know anything about the format as usual heading into an All-Stars or really any recent season. We don't totally know what the format is going to be, how it's going to work. We can just assume there's probably going to be lots of twists and turns. We can probably assume they're going to compete as individuals at points, as partners at points, and as teams at points on some dailies or whatever. It's going to be a huge, big mess because that's what the formats typically are. But we do know 2 things. We know the prize money, and we know we know the basis of one big twist, because those things are known from the trailer and preseason publications and things of that nature. So first thing let's talk about is the fact that we know there's only one winner, and that winner gets $300,000. And both of those things have me quite upset, to be quite honest. First and foremost, I hate 1 season winners. I absolutely hate them. And I think if this was filmed prior to B-Fank, you have to remember, again, this was filmed before USA 2 and Battle for a New Champion. If this would have been filmed after Battle for a New Champion, when they completely screwed up by only having 1 champion again, and were just bit in the butt by Nerys coming in 2nd, when clearly it would have been a huge boon for the show for Nerys to be able to be called a champion. they might have done things differently. I don't know. Maybe they were just in the mood around this time when filming these seasons to do single champions. I don't think it's really ever worked. The Cara one, they got kind of like lucky that it more or less worked out and all the storylines tied together so nicely and everyone was happy with that. But otherwise, it just really hasn't since then. And it isn't high probability of success in general. We didn't love it on All Stars 1 when it's like Kellyanne or John A should either be the 3-time champ. Kellyanne should have a championship. Yes, should keep his, obviously, but there should have been a second person as well, maybe splitting that money with him. I don't love it. I don't love it at all. And, if you see the cast list for the season, one of the first reactions was like, damn, they really want Cara or Laurel and Leroy or Tony to get a win. They're like really setting this up for some of these, big stars to kind of come back into the fold with a big win. And they might be, but they only want one of them to be a winner after all. So it just feels like they might be shooting themselves in the foot again here. Same as Nerys on Battle for a New Champion, where it's like, hey, the person who gets second, we probably are going to wish, or, if a woman wins, the man that gets first as far as the men go, or if a man wins, the woman that gets first as far as the women go, we'd probably want them after the fact to be like, it'd be cool if we could call them the champion of All Stars 4. It would just help different things in the future and their credibility and legacy and all this other stuff. So they should have 2 champs. They don't. They're only going to have 1. It also means Kam and Leroy both can't win, which is a complete waste, because that also would have been amazing to be able to have that in the possibility again, as it was on Double Agents. Possible. It was at least all right up until partway through the final, where it finally kind of seemed to fall apart. But it was like, oh my God, what if they could win it together? It'd be amazing. It has happened once before. Not to bring up bitter, things that don't taste good anymore in the mouth, so to speak. But Tori and Brad did win as a couple way back on Cutthroat. No longer together, of course, these days. But it has happened once before that a couple and expecting, or parents at that, have won, and it would have been amazing to see Kam and Leroy do that. But now only one of them can win. The other one could get second, though, and maybe win money, maybe not. And it just hurts the final of the season so much. Just the finals are way worse when there's only one person. It's already the hardest season episode of the season to get people to watch and be invested in. And then it hurts even more that, like, what you do in a, have them actually do in a final that is purely individual, mixed men and women versus a male winner, a female winner, and them maybe running as partners at different points and whatever. It hurts just dramatically. I almost dropped the Succession Jeremy Strong dramaturgically there, and I guess now I have. It just hurts the whole thing. It hurts the enjoyment of watching it. So I hate one season winners. We'll leave it at that. I also hate that $300,000 isn't nearly enough. Okay. There are folks on this season that have not been on the show for 25 years and 22 years and 18 years and 12 years, et cetera, et cetera. And the prize pot was the same when they were on the show as this season is going to be. Okay. It was $300,000 20 years ago on this show. And it's just not enough. And I know 20 years ago, they did 1 or 2 at most seasons a year. They got a lot of more sponsorships, all the prizes that were donated, all the other things. Way more people watched the show. The network was starving. I know all of the things. I know all of the reasons why. And that the production used to cost very little when it was just at one house and they picked a field nearby and they did carnival games. And now they, have stunt teams on it and pyro teams and everything else. But it just doesn't feel right. It never will. And I know they do 6 seasons a year across all the different platforms, everything, and the money it's just not possible. But I need it to be 500,000 or more to feel like it's even close to fair. Season 40 better be over $1 million, or else, I don't know what the peaceful alternative of riot is, but we should all do that in the streets and write letters. Let's do a letter writing campaign. Those used to work way long ago. Maybe they can again. The other thing we know about the format is there's some sort of star twist. The star twist is involved, similar to a skull twist of past, it seems to be. Now, for those on the YouTube side of things, I swear I didn't know about this prior to doing my video on the daily skull twist idea that I put out last weekend. My idea, for those who haven't watched, essentially is the skull twist kind of almost could have worked, but they needed to do it for dailies, not eliminations. I'll leave it at that. Go back, watch that video if you have not already. I think it's a fun idea. It's not a perfect solution the way I maybe put it forward to get you to click on the video in the first place, but it is a fun idea. And I had no idea. I guess I hadn't watched the trailer that closely, or remembering that there is some sort of skull type twist on this season. There's stars this time around. And whereas on All Stars 3, there was a stars twist, you could earn stars and steal stars from people. It was just to whoever had the most, which I think ended up being Nehemiah, got a little advantage at the start of the final. Versus here, it does seem to be the old star, or the skull, way, the skull type of strategy here of you have to have one to be eligible for the final. And we see in the trailer that there are 10 of them available, but it is not said how you get one or how you can steal one. It is said you can, and there will be theft of these stars. And so is this still an elimination based thing where you have to win an elimination to get one? And once they're all had, you have to go against someone with one to get one? Can you win an elimination versus just anyone? But if there's no stars left, just pick, hey, Brad, I'm taking yours. You weren't in here or whatever, but there's none available. I just get to take one from someone. Is it kind of a key like situation from the island where maybe there is a daily element, or there is just you have power, you can take it from anyone, you don't have to beat them necessarily in something sort of thing going on? I don't know, but I know that this is going to be a part of it. And even if it is straight up, elimination wins, it's 10 of them. It'll be very similar to how they did it on Double Agents, as far as there were 10 skulls available on Double Agents. You had to win an elimination. You had to beat someone that had one in an elimination once they were gone. It's how, Josh ended up losing his because, Darrell wanted, or CT wanted to get his. And it's how Devin briefly lost one, or did lose his for good on it, because Darrell wanted to go get one, etc., etc. That's better than the unlimited version. Again, I just did a video about how the skull twist, they almost had it right. Maybe this will improve upon it. Maybe it won't. We shall see. But I definitely think it helps some people and hurts other. No matter what, if you have to win an elimination, more than likely, or potentially maybe just win a daily, which would be cool if they really did do that already, and that would just be unbelievable. One way or the other, you have to win something, you have to earn something, which I think helps people like Cara, Laurel, Rachel, Brad, Leroy, Tony, the people I would see winning dailies the most this season, having the best odds in any given elimination round versus the rest of this cast. And it hurts folks like Tina, Veronica, Adam, Ryan, that I see having, in Tina and Veronica's case, I just don't know that they're winning many eliminations versus this pretty stacked female cast. I don't know if they're winning not too many dailies versus this cast. Now, maybe there is some element of, what if you win multiple stars? Can you give them to your friends? Could Rachel go out there and get all the trio of the Mean Girls, all their own stars on her own? I don't know. But I think it hurts Tina and Veronica. And I think it hurts Ryan and Adam, who I actually think could perform pretty good in a final, but maybe won't be as big a threats in an elimination or in a daily as they actually would be maybe in a final. And so if you have to get one of those to get into the final, I think it hurts those people. I think it helps some of the people that already were the favorites anyways going into this season. But overall, I'm very intrigued to see what happens. And I'm hoping for, fingers crossed, biggest wish is just somehow, some way, if this was pairs, it'd be amazing. But if it could just be a little bit of a straightforward men's day, women's day, men's day, women's day, individual game, mostly individual dailies. Sometimes you get to get in pairs just for it. Last place into elimination. First place gets some power, maybe a star, whatever, house votes, etc. One format. All I'm asking, fingers crossed, one format, one format, one format. If we believe long enough and we watch enough seasons, they will one day give us another season with just one format all the way through. Let's hope it's this one. Now for some just random discussion, 10 things I am most excited about going into this season. And we start with the biggest, most obvious one, Cara Maria being back. And addendum, Cara Maria being back without Paulie, who, by the way, I love and I am looking forward. I've enjoyed getting to see back in the challenge fold, and I really look forward to seeing on season 40. But specifically, I love that Cara Maria is back. It's been too long. It was silly that she wasn't being called. It's obviously amazing she's back, and clearly from the trailer, a central figure of this show. Now, whether that's just because they know market this show, maybe she's in one episode and they're like, put every scene you have from that first episode in the trailer, put as much Cara as you can, because obviously that's going to get us all excited seeing her. Or she is the central figure of the show and she's there basically the whole time or most of the time, what have you. Either way, she's heavily involved and she's the main reason to be excited about this season. And the part about Paulie is I'm glad he's not there so we can have Cara be center stage and it not be Cara and Paulie together being center stage or intertwined and their games being intertwined. Because, when we last left her and them was on War of the Worlds 2, when we went, 3-4 seasons in a row of having the Cara and Paulie and Kyle originally, the Paulie Kyle thing turned into just, Cara and Paulie kind of running things, and slowly but surely the rest of the cast turning on them, the fans turning a little bit on them, the whole thing. And so I'm glad we're getting them back individually first before we then get them back together on season 40. And they stacked Cara related storylines across the cast. I mean, Laurel, obviously, huge history there. And from the trailer, some more history to be made coming into this season. And then Nicole, that adds a lot to it. Just the history of those three together and Cara's commentary on Nicole and Laurel when they've been together since then. Leroy and Kam are there. That's great friends of Cara in real life and in the show on the most recent seasons, but they haven't always worked together. Well, the last time we saw a big group, I think it's like 7 or 8. There's a one specific scene that's going around from Vendettas when Cara picked Kyle over Leroy, essentially to save from the last elimination and go to the final. And it was a big, like, how could you do that to Leroy for this guy you met a few weeks ago and just, are dating now or whatever. But I think it was like 8 people that were there in that moment are on here on this cast, or 7 of them or something. And so Leroy and Kam, great friends of Cara's, but they don't always work together. It's not a guarantee they work together. Some of the preseason clips that have come out, we've seen Kam talk of like, that's my girl, but that's also my competition. So maybe there is, maybe they don't align together. We will see. Tony and Cara have history. Again, that Vendettas moment and plus plenty before that. She's cool with Brandon and Brad. Is she cool with the Mean Girls? I actually don't really have any idea what her, if any, relationship with the Veronica, Tina, Rachel trio is. So Cara being back, absolutely unbelievable. Second thing, Leroy, unretired and better than ever. Leroy is going to dominate this season, okay? Early prediction there to foreshadow some predictions that will be made later on. He's one of my and everyone else's, yours and everyone's favorite cast members ever. I've never met a challenge fan who does not love and adore Leroy. I don't think that person exists. And if they do, they're wrong. And I don't know what I want to know what else they're wrong about in life, because they've got life completely backwards if they have anything negative to say about Leroy ever. And not only is he back after retiring, quote unquote, after Double Agents, but he's in the best shape of his life, potentially. He's on an all-star season without many heavy hitters on the men's side. And Kam is there for the strongest possible ally in the house. And some of the women that he's friends with in the house and other that Kam's friends with, and the different connections the two of them have. I mean, this is teed up nice for Leroy, like real nice for the greatest to have never won. Potentially, I don't know if he 100% has that title, but most people would say he does. And without thinking too hard about it, I would just, agree off principle and out of love for Leroy. So set up nice. So glad he's back. Feel like he's going to dominate. We will talk about him during the predictions. Third one, then, referenced many times already, but the Mean Girls are here and it's a reunion for them. It's so wonderful to get Rachel back just in general, but the fact that they got her back in, it certainly helped, I'm sure. I don't know that it was some criteria, but it definitely helped by having Veronica and Tina there too, so the three of them could do a season together one more time, maybe there's more in the future. Rachel and Tina, there is another season in the future. It's being filmed right now, season 40, but they're back. They shouldn't have done a remake of the Mean Girls movie earlier this year, but they definitely should have brought this Mean Girls trio back. So, one right move, one wrong move as far as Mean Girls related content is going in 2024. We've seen Veronica and Tina together briefly on All Stars before, but again, Rachel coming back is the big draw here. At one point, it seemed like it was never going to happen again. 12 years later, and it was crazy to some extent that of all of the people to not have back once All Stars got started up, it was like Rachel makes the most sense. Have you seen? Have you checked in on her recently? She's in better shape than she ever has been. She's this huge top fitness instructor and is still Rachel in every single sense of the word as far as the athletic competitor. And I can only assume is also, the incredible television and cast member that she always was. So we get her back and having her back with those two to be able to just the scene we already, in the trailer, we see they get to walk in together because of course they do. They're the production is smart. We don't give them enough credit for all the smart things they do sometimes, focusing a little too much on the things we don't like. They were obviously going to have this trio walk in together. We'll see if they actually work totally together though. Cause like, can they befriend the new kids? There isn't enough OGs to go around for like a proper alliance for them. Like an obvious, hey, the old heads on this side, the younger people on this side. Like it's like Brad and then Cyrus, if he enters the game, and like Adam and Flora and Kefla will be like, hey, we know you much more than we know them. Like Adam is one that's going to kind of be crucial for them. Like is he ready to go for this? They're going to need him. They've done seasons with him before. um but yeah, it's gonna be tough sledding. And I go back to my question of like how the star thing's going to work. Could Rachel potentially like win stars for all three of them? Is that going to be allowed? Can you pass them around? Can you steal them? How do you get them? Lots of questions there. Fourth thing I am excited for, I'm thrilled to see Ayana back after her, yet, as always, star turn on All Stars 2. Star turn every time she's ever been on the challenge. And was great to see her back on All Stars 2. It's going to be good to watch her here on All Stars 4. I'm rooting for her to do well. I'm obviously rooting for her immensely in real life. If you don't know, we've mentioned it a few times on semi-recent episodes, but she is having an ongoing battle with cancer right now. I'm not up to date on where that story and where that battle is at right now, but shout out as always to Ayana. Absolutely love her. And so I don't believe any of that real life situation came about like during the show or anything. So I don't think it's going to be mentioned or anything during the show, anything like that. And I have no idea how she gets along with this cast. She doesn't have super obvious ties in here, other than again, she could be one that's like, hey, there's a few of us older folks, OGs. Can I hang out with the Mean Girls? Can I Cyrus, Adam? Like, do you want to, Flora, Kefla? We're the three from like the first seasons of the show. So she's got a couple people. Maybe she could. I could see her being completely and utterly the outcast of the group. I could see her being everyone's absolute favorite in like the OG that all the younger people are like, let's actually get Ayana in here. This could be fun. I could see her totally stirring things up, having a good time. I'm going to be rooting for her. Glad Ayana's there. Fifth one, Tony Time. Tony Time is back. And so is his sidekick that I think he should have ditched a long time ago, Nicole. So let's talk about them in conjunction. The two Real World Skeletons alum. Who would have known? Shout out my city, Chicago, would have Chicago 2 would have this long of legs as far as history on MTV. But Tony and Nicole here still going yet again. And look, Tony has never not been great entertainment for this show. I don't think that being married, father, sober is going to change that. I recently had the fortune of seeing him back in Chicago for a Challenge Mania, and he was bringing it. He was clearly beyond enthused to be back in the challenge ecosystem, having a great time. Super excited for All Stars 4. So I'm just so excited for him. I know it's going to be great. It's going to be different than what it used to be, but it's still going to be absolutely great. I have no idea if he will remain attached to Nicole, but boy, will he have more ammo than ever because, again, we know from the trailer there's some drama. There's on again, off again relationship with Nicole, which we had seen in past seasons of the challenge. We saw on X on Peak of Love, X on the Beach, Peak of Love, whichever the season those two were on together. We've seen play out on social media since the filming of this season that things went down. We've known that they did not keep that a secret at all, and so stuff goes down. Relationships are had and broken potentially. And I know that maybe a lot of people out there say Nicole not great outside of the show as far as things she's done, how she's treated certain people. I don't know. I don't follow most of that stuff. I don't have any details other than I see a lot of people calling her a POS a lot of times on the interwebs. I know that there's been some cheating on and or with maybe both of Laurel and Nicole allegations. I know there's a lot of hype around the drama that the season's going to bring in the story, and that it's, one of the weirdest things about watching this a year and a half later is going to be that we've saw the aftermath of whatever happens on this season play out on social media over the last year and a half. So we kind of know where it sits now. It's gonna be a little strange, but I think it's gonna be entertaining. And speaking of Laurel, that is number 6. Laurel, could she get a second win? Sixth thing I'm most excited about is Laurel maybe finally getting the second win. She's only won once. And I don't say that as like a dig or like, did you know? It makes sense when you break down season by season. It just is because, her first 4 seasons, final, and win on free agents. And the season she made the final but lost, like the losses somewhat made sense. I think her and Kenny losing to Landon and Carly was the only one that was like kind of a big upset and like, oh my gosh, I thought she would have had this, and that was her rookie season, for crying out loud. But ever since that loss to Camilla in the invasion final elimination, not so fast, it's been a little less dominant than expected in the couple seasons after that, and even really to some degree even on that invasion season, although that was she had some dominating performances, I guess, on that season as well as far as eliminations go. But now she gets an all-star season, and yes, Cara's there, Rachel's there, Cam's there, even Nicole's there as far as physical matchups with her. It is a stacked cast physically on the female side. We're in for a stacked female year of the challenge between this and season 40, okay? But it's still Laurel. She's still the top physical threat there. If it comes down to something where size and strength matters, it's not a matchup, her versus anyone. Maybe Rachel, because I don't know. I think Rachel's almost as tall as Nicole. Rachel is tall. I don't think she's as tall as Nicole, as Laurel. I'm already getting them mixed up. They're already intertwined in my mind. But anything super physical, any of the headbanger eliminations, like I don't know that anyone's beating Laurel. Other ones she can be beat, as we have seen a couple of times. But yeah, could she get, her second win and kind of establish the legacy that doesn't need kind of rubber stamped, but at the same time almost does? Weirdly, she feels like someone who has won because she's in like the GOAT conversation stuff. She feels like someone that's won more than once. And again, it's not like you look at the resume and you're like, yeah, well, that all makes sense. And she absolutely dominates most of the time. And she's fantastic at the show. But then you're also like, it feels like she should have won more than once. So maybe she'll get that win. It feels like between her and Nicole and her actions toward Cara and others, because of maybe the Nicole situation, she's going to very much be a star this season, very much a star of the trailer. Looking forward to Laurel. 7th thing I'm excited about, the smart picks for deserving comebacks. We've got in this category, I'm putting Brandon, Avery, and Adam. Those 3 who have not done All-Stars before, being great choices for, they're on the fringe of do the All-Star moniker deserved or not, but I think they were very inspired and good picks to bring into an All-Star season. All 3, fit the All-Stars billing, but don't totally fit the All-Stars billing. If you look at them closely, though, you're like, yes, they actually do. And we also know that they are all 3 people who took both the competition and the show seriously before, and I think will again, making them good bets as All-Stars cast member selections. Brandon, all-time fan favorite, never totally got a fair shake between, his rookie season being partnered with Caitlyn on Fresh Meat was not a great shake. Cutthroat being the sacrificial lamb of the red team and going into elimination after elimination after elimination on that stacked team, but just had no way he was going to crack the alliance and ever get thrown in until he lost. He would have had to just win every single elimination to make it to the end on that season. And then his other couple of seasons, like he's going up against Bananas, CT, Jordan, and Wes, all like in their prime. Maybe not Wes in his prime, but CT, Bananas, and Jordan, like the seasons in the 20s, like those 3 dominated. And so it is what it is. Avery, then, one of my biggest ever real world or challenge crushes. So excuse the bias. That probably is going to be on Front Street here anytime I talk about Avery on this season. But she's fantastic entertainment on all of her season, real world, couple challenge seasons she's done. I think it was an inspired pick to bring her back in. And then Adam was a little bit lost to time. 3 seasons of the show, but all early on where you can't watch them nowadays. And so a little bit of a forgotten figure, but a major figure in those seasons he was on, was always one of the people, in those early seasons. That was the kind of, they didn't get to do more. Like, why didn't they get to do more seasons was like a question I asked about him. He was one of the first people I asked about that question about. So all three of them, Brandon, Avery, Adam, I think inspired choices for first time All-Stars. And then speaking of the multi-time All-Stars that I think are great do-overs and deserving do-overs, the All-Star 2 do-overs list: Steve, Ryan, Ace, Jasmine, Janelle. Ace, All-Stars 1, the rest of them All-Stars 2 do-overs. All were good picks the first time around, and all for kind of slightly different reasons were worth bringing back for another try at All-Stars. Janelle in particular, we will discuss here, the very faulty, to put it kindly, All-Stars 2 finale. The fact that she and Darrell had to go from very physical, exhausting elimination straight into the final, no food, no break, no nothing. And then how bad that final was executed from an operation production standpoint. And so she, if anyone deserved, like all of those people, like Nehemiah and Melinda, Janelle, should have all got immediate calls of like, you can do every season you want after this. We got to give you a couple more chances at this here. But while they brought her back with a season, no obvious friends or allies. Like, she is maybe one of the most isolated people as far as cast, who she's done seasons with or not, who she has obvious connections to or not on this cast. So that's going to be tough. And then Ace, as we referenced earlier, deserves, after being beaten to a pulp by Letarian in pole wrestle, definitely deserve to come back and get another shot at an All-Star season. 9th, maybe the biggest surprise, as we said, going through the cast list. When Jay showed up on the cast list, people were shocked. Couldn't believe it. That Jay, really that Jay? And yeah, that Jay. And guess what? I'm thrilled about it. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see how this plays out. I think it was kind of a genius move by them. And I think it's going to be great no matter how it goes, whether he does well, whether he gets thrown in the first elimination and loses in epic fashion. I think it's going to be interesting and entertaining. And I just love it. Giving a spot to a total redemption 1-season performer is a fantastic idea. He does look he's kind of swole now. He looks like he's been lifting, working out, the whole thing. So maybe he's going to do pretty well. He was good at TV is the other thing, the deserved 1-season, redemption type of people he fits, because he was entertaining and interesting and memorable for better or worse on that season. So F it. I'm in. Love that he's back. Plus, it means all season long I get to reference his all-time legendary tweet during Challenge USA 1. Tyson Apostle, noted Challenge USA 1 dominator right until the end, when lost because of a Sudoku, and then talked a lot of deserved shit about the show and the shoddy production of that season, was tweeting a lot during the airing of that season. And famously, Jay tweeted back at him that I think he either said would run circles around him, would dog walk him, he said he would be way better than Tyson and all these folks on USA 1. And it was hilarious because, Tyson, of course, had no idea who he was. He only knew a handful of challenger names in general. And the rest of challenge fandom was like, wait. Yeah, we maybe want to defend challengers versus Tyson, saying that they're maybe not all that good. And this back and forth he and Wes had, but like, you're chiming in, you're the one doing this defense. Like, whoa. So yeah, spoiler alert, he won't back up that tweet fully because he can't, because Tyson was absolutely amazing at the challenge and still would be if he ever was given enough money to convince him to somehow take another stab at it, which won't happen. But I'm glad Jay's here. And the 10th and final thing then is actually a 2-for-1 called 11, but really it's just 10, 2-for-1. The location and the foreshadowing. We're in Cape Town, South Africa. This is the 4th time the challenge will have filmed in South Africa. The 2nd time at this exact location and house. This is the same house they used for World Championships, which I thought was a very good house, solid setup situation for conversations being able to happen in different parts. There's a small pool, but big enough for kind of a little lounge water pool thing too as well. I just thought it was a solid house and made for a good setup. And so I'm good with that. And I'm good for, and we've seen recently, it has been a successful formula to use a house and a location a few times in a row. And this one going from world champs to this means that like the house was already set up. So they didn't have to spend some time and money on doing different things, the cameras, et cetera, et cetera. And they had the locations, they had lots of the sets, they had lots of the equipment already there. It just means a lot more time and resources to build out bigger, crazier things because they're not doing that initial outlay on all of that stuff, which is always, always great. It's hot. It's summertime when they filmed, swimsuit weather for sure. It's going to be fantastic. I absolutely can't wait. And then the foreshadowing part, look, they brought 11 of these people back for season 40, plus 2 others that they took as alternates for season 40. Okay. So 13 of these 25 people were immediately asked to go do the most important season in the history of the franchise, season 40. That has to mean something good. That combined with the fact that they waited so long and that they purposely were like, no, we gotta get USA 2 out there. We gotta get B-Fank out there. And then we'll drop this and we'll have this into 40 back to back. They know what they're sitting on. They know what they're doing. This season's going to be absolutely freaking amazing. That is the expectation I'm setting. And only because I usually don't like to do the expectation game, but only because they clearly know what they have on their hands. And they're clearly trying to signal to us, strap in. This is going to be awesome. Finally, let's talk who's going to win this thing. Let's talk power rankings first and then make some picks for our finalists and for our winners. Power rankings preseason going in. I have never felt more confident about a top 2 on a power rankings, maybe in the history of covering this show on a podcast platform or otherwise. On the men's side, Leroy, Brad, 1, 2, and then there's a gap. Okay, there's a gap. We'll still give the next person third place, but there's a big gap. If this was a tiers list, Leroy and Brad are in tier 1, and the next people are in tier 3. If one of those 2 doesn't win this season, something went very wrong for both of them. Okay. There's people that could beat them, sure. But if this cast ran a final tomorrow and there got to be a men's winner and a women's winner, Leroy or Brad are smoking the field. Okay. In the final. So those 2 are at the top. I don't know who's going to beat either of them in an elimination. I think they're both going to win a lot of dailies if they're individual or partner dailies. They're way above everyone else in my mind. After that gap, then I would have a third place Tony, a fourth place Adam, and a fifth place Brandon. I think those 3 stand out to me. Tony's just in fantastic shape. Who knows if he can do a puzzle on his own? I have no idea, but he's in fantastic shape. He's fired up. He's a little more youthful, as far as the cast goes, the whole thing. So I'm putting him there. He's got good ties across the cast, the whole thing. I think Adam and Brandon, especially Adam, I know I follow him on Instagram and everything. And I know, super, I don't know if it's triathlons or just biking, but I know he bikes a hell of a lot. And so got some cardio, got some endurance. And I don't know if that came like, maybe this was the kick in the ass that really got him into that, if he's been into that a long time. But so maybe I got my timelines wrong, but I know the dude's in really good cardio shape right now today. So maybe he was a year and a half ago when they filmed this too. But so I feel like if he could sneak into a final, he would actually like be the surprise, like, wait a minute, the guy from season 7 is gonna get a win again. Like, what's going on here? And I think Brandon has stayed in good shape and has pretty good connections in the house. And so I don't know. Those 3 round out my top 5, but Leroy and Brad way up there, big gap. Those 2 stand at the top of my power rankings. On the women's side, it's tough. I didn't want to go all chalk, but I almost kind of did. But Cara Maria's first, Rachel's second, Laurel's third. And I specifically have Cara and Rachel above Laurel because it just seems like there's going to be too much. I don't like there being so much drama around someone before a season has even begun. And so, that just could spell bad things, but she still has to lose. Someone still has to beat her. And so, so Laurel's still got to be near the top, but it's why I've got her below Cara and Rachel, who I think if they ran a final right now would similar to even maybe more so than Brad and Leroy on the men's side. Cara and Rachel are just in a different class of athlete on this, even in this stacked with a lot of good athletes and competitors on the women's side. Cara and Rachel are both just, especially Rachel. I mean, she does what she does for a living for a reason, so They're in the top two. Laurel's third. Cam's fourth. Janelle's fifth. The thing we got to remember about Cam, yes, it's Killer Cam, but it's Killer Cam who had just had a child. And so, hadn't been doing cardio at least, working out mostly at all for a while heading into this. And so, socially, politically, we still got Killer Cam. That strength is still in there. That strategy is from a competitive standpoint is in there. That fire is still in there, but it does matter in this game that is this, physically taxing at this point to be the person coming off of, a year of your life where you weren't able to really work out or anything. That has to matter. That's why she's fourth below those other three. And then Janelle in fifth, I think, is my sneaky pick. We saw her do well in a final recently on one of these and in shitty circumstances, kind of unfair, some would say, circumstances, do well in a final and almost win. Maybe probably should have won, potentially has an argument. They all had an argument to maybe we should have won that final. So she's got to be in there as well. So Cara, Rachel, Laurel, Cam, Janelle, Leroy, Brad, Tony, Adam, Brandon. That's the power rankings heading into the season. As for the picks for the finalists and the winners, I don't even remember who on my original cast reaction. I picked some winners. I think I said Tony. I think I said Cam. I don't think I'm saying either of those people here. I don't even think I'm saying either of those people are going to make the final. The star twist has me thinking here, because otherwise I would just pick basically my power rankings more or less. Would just be who I think makes the final, because I think there is kind of a gap as far as who can win eliminations and can't, at a high probability rate, who can win dailies and can't at a high probability rate. But the star thing, messes with it, the not knowing what the format is, knowing it's individuals, but at what kind. So I didn't want to go all chalk. I want to, the seasons never go perfectly all chalk. An All-Stars one seems ripe to do it, but we had to go a little off the board as well. So here's my finalist picks. On the men's side, I've got Leroy, Brad, Ryan, Cyrus, and Brandon. I think all five of them, obviously, you know what I think about Leroy and Brad after the power rankings, but I think Ryan, Cyrus, and Brandon all can get a star win, whether that ends up being in an elimination, whether that is capable in a daily challenge, whether they are capable of stealing it for winning a daily or something like that. I don't know. But I think all of them have a chance to get a star and then potentially hold on to it, potentially not be the targets to want to remove from the final. I think those three make it. That's my finalist picks on the men's side. On the women's side, Cara, Rachel, Laurel are there. I just don't think anyone can beat them. They can obviously all be beat. They've all lost eliminations before, but odds wise, as far as what the elimination would be, the odds are pretty heavily in their favor. It's something they're going to absolutely kick ass at unless they face each other. And so I think those three end up there. However, you have to get a star. I think they're more than capable of getting one. And then I think Nicole and Janelle join them, and that rounds out your finalist, which means for the winners, which again, there is only going to be one, but I am going to pick two because I think there should be two. And so in one way or the other, we will be able to say the same way as we do for Nerys now and forever will for Nerys, first place woman on that season, even if not champion in our minds, kind of won the season. Two people will kind of be winners out of this, even if one is the only one that truly gets to say they were a challenge champ for All-Stars 4. I think Leroy is going to win the whole season. I think Cara will be the first woman finisher, which we will acknowledge is kind of the other champion of the season. Although if that played out, it would be not deserved by any means, because I love Cara to death. But it would be interesting to finally, as far as someone who isn't able to make the argument of like, hey, add, kind of like a half championship to my name because I was first of my gender during that one person winner season. It's Cara because she has won a one person winner season. So it's like, well, yeah, but then, if you do, Zach gets to whatever. So Leroy and Cara are my winners picks is what I'm saying. Leroy, if I have to pick only one, I think it's Leroy. I just think he's just gonna dominate. He already was very good at the show. It is surprising that he never won, in all honesty. And he's just gonna dominate these people. He's got such great connections. He is physically just going to wipe the floor with anyone and everyone out there on the men's side. And he's solid at the puzzles and everything. Even if he has to do them on his own, I think he can get through it in a final. So yeah, I got Leroy, and also Leroy can eat. I know we've got Tony, the one of the most, maybe the most famous eater in the history of the challenge, but like Leroy can crush the food in the final two. So it really comes down to like, does he have to do a bunch of puzzles on his own where maybe someone could be faster at that than him? Otherwise, like Leroy's gonna wipe the floor, and I think they're gonna love having that happen, and it's gonna be amazing. And I hope Cam is there too during the final. To They could cross the finish line together, and they can just choose between them which one gets to take the last step across the finish line and technically take home the title and the money. Yeah, it's gonna be fantastic. Also, if that happens, I do think they both look at each other and like it should be you, Lee, and Lee would do it. Maybe, yeah. I don't know. Hope it happens. Hope this season is amazing. I just know it's gonna be. I know it's gonna be. Again, they couldn't have done more foreshadowing. They couldn't have set it up. They couldn't have set the expectations higher, and they did it all on purpose. The season's gonna be amazing. All Stars 4 is here. I cannot wait. We will cover it every Wednesday. Whenever the episodes are out, we will watch, we will podcast, we will get that content out to you. We will be talking about it a bunch on the Instagram, hopefully on Instagram, some more shorter stuff. As always, DM me if you just want to chat about the season on there. Even if I'm not posting, I am checking the DMs on, not every day or anything like that. So if you don't get a message back for a few days, even a week, don't freak out. You're not getting ignored. I don't get on often, but when I do, I make sure to go back and respond to everything that I missed. Same YouTube, comment below, the whole thing, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. You guys are amazing. This season's going to be amazing. I love you. I'll talk to you again soon. Until then, peace. What up, my fellow challenge lovers? Welcome to the Challenge Historian, where we dive deep into all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future of what's happening in the Challenge universe. We are here to document it. I am your host and dedicated Challenge Historian, Jacob Hollabaugh. Thank you so very, very, very much for being here with me on this Monday, April 1st, or whenever you may eventually be listening to this, hopefully sometime between April 1st and April 10th, because that is the premiere date of the Challenge All-Stars 4, which is what we're here to talk about today at long last. Like, legit, I don't have the numbers in front of me. Go check out Challenge Stats as always. I believe they have the breakdown somewhere over the course of the last year and a half. They have covered that it has been like a year and a half since this season filmed, and we are now getting to see it. By far the longest break between filming and showing. The first All-Star season to not be shown to us in chronological order. This was filmed before both USA 2 and Battle for a New Champion. So a little out of order, but finally, we get to see it. And as we'll talk about during this breakdown, there is probably a very good reason why they waited. It only sets the expectation all that much higher. We're going to get to it all. Before we dive in to our All-Stars 4 coverage here, quick programming reminders. Tony and I are covering Survivor 46, and it is out every single weekend. We've pretty much fallen into a pattern of recording on Friday or Saturday, getting that out Saturday or Sunday. Sometimes it's a little earlier, sometimes it could be a little later, but mostly look for those every weekend. We're covering Survivor 46 in all of its interestingness so far. I won't quite say glory. I won't quite say that it hasn't been a good season. It's somewhere in the middle right now. We'll see where it ends up, but Survivor fans, make sure you're tapping into Survivor Historian with Tony and I. All-Stars 4, then obviously this is the preview podcast for it, which means we will have season coverage coming up starting on the 10th. I believe, given this is on Paramount Plus, those episodes are going to drop early wee hours of Wednesday morning. And so I will watch as early as possible, get the recaps out as soon as possible. Look for those. Hopefully, if those episodes are dropping early in the morning and I can wake up first thing and watch, we'll get those to you out by midday, end of the day into the night. If, worst case scenario, if they're not available till sometime in the afternoon or evening. But as soon as they are, I will watch, I will pod, I will get you those recaps for every single episode of All-Stars 4 all the way through. And then finally, we do have, in the near-ish future, we are going to be restarting the rewatch series. We did it quite a while ago now. We did seasons 1 through 20, covered them in depth, one at a time, called it the rewatch series, paused at 20. It's coming back sometime in the near-ish future. I'm not going to define near-ish, but near-ish is a great way to term it, which is why I have done that. It's going to relaunch soon. What I'm going to do is hoping to cover the first 8 seasons again, starting at the beginning, covering those first 8, which are, I know, the ones that are not easily findable out there to be able to watch, but makes them all the more important to go back and cover. And then from after those first 8, going to kind of pick a handful of others smattered throughout the timeline of Challenge history to cover leading up to season 40, eventually debuting, I would assume, sometime this fall, late fall, early winter at worst. And so that is the goal for that. So my ask of you is, if there is something, whether you did or didn't watch or listen to the rewatch series of prior, if there's something about, if someone goes back to look back at these seasons of old, if there's something you'd want analyzed, if there's an award you'd want given out, if there's a storyline you want to make sure is covered, if there's, I guess, even a specific season, since I'm not going to do every single one of them for this round of the rewatch series. Long in the future, we will do every single season. There'll be a book, there'll be a podcast series, there'll be the whole thing. But for this one, if there's a specific season that you're like, if you're only picking a handful of them, one of them has to be this. Anything of that nature, send it to me. DMs are open at Challenge Historian. Comment on this video or any of the videos on YouTube. You can get a hold of me. You can let me know anything you'd want to see be a part of a rewatch series, going back and diving into the earliest seasons and then the most consequential, impactful seasons. Let me know, and I will consider including it when we get to those. So that's coming up in the future.